Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Today we're going to be using wire that you can mold easily. Round nose pliers, nylon jaw pliers, flat nose pliers, wire cutters, additional jump rings, and a fisheye hook. So let's start off. Now this wire, my brother brought this home for me from work, but you can find wire at any craft store and even online. We are first going to start off making the jump rings for the bracelet. To do that, we are going to use the round nose pliers. Start off at the bottom of the pliers and grab the wire, then twist to form a complete ring around. Now once you have that ring, you want to do the same thing again going under. I made the mistake by going over, but I'll show you how to fix that. So if you made that mistake like me, you're going to take the rings off your pliers and flip it over so the wire is facing down on the pliers. Now with this, you're going to start forming the wire along the bottom of the pliers and keep doing this until you get something that looks like a spring. This is me showing you in real time so you can get the hang of it. It's easier if you form the wire from the bottom of the pliers because that's how I used to do it a few years back, so I'm just learning this new way. So we are basically learning together. Make sure on every twist you do, you are grabbing it with the pliers so it doesn't go flying, and this is how it should be looking. There is no measurement for how long you have to make the spring, but I'd say make it a 2/3 of the size of the person's wrist you are making it for. Okay, so now that you have your spring, let's get to cutting. You see where the end of the wire meets that first loop. That's where we are going to cut straight up from. And with that, this is our first jump ring. Continue to keep cutting straight so you can form these jump rings. Again, this is me showing you in real time. If you try to cut more than one jump ring at a time, it gets more difficult. So just stick to cutting one at a time. This whole process of me cutting the rings took me like 3 minutes. Not too long, but make sure you are careful when using these tools, and if needed, have someone help you. You don't have to get silver wire exactly like me. There are a bunch of colors of wire such as copper wire, and then wire with a colored layer over it. With those kinds of wire, be careful when using because when cutting and making impressions on them, the color will rub off. You can check to see if your wire has a layer of color by looking at the inside of it when you cut it, and if you see a different color than what it appears on the inside, you have a wire that's not exactly the color it's supposed to be. I have many different colors of wire, and that wire is aluminum. So when I use them, a silver color appears when I cut into it, but it's pretty easy to hide. It really just depends on the purpose of the wire and what you're using it for. But for jewelry making, use wire made for jewelry, and if you have sensitive skin, do not wear it all day every day and take it off when washing your hands. And don't go to sleep with them either. It can stain your skin. It will be considered costume jewelry since it's not gold or silver. Now we're on to the final rings, and here you keep cutting straight, but you might have a little bit left over, which is totally okay. From here, go ahead and grab your round nose pliers once again. Now we are going to start making the details on the jump rings to give it that old beat up look so it's not too plain. If you don't want to give it that look, then skip this step. So take one of your jump rings and start making impressions on it with the pliers around it, and then turn it to the side and do the same. You can see what I'm talking about as I do it. It is a little tricky at first, but it gets easier once you get the hang of it. So this is our first ring done of many. We're almost there, guys. And here, I'm going to show it again. Now this part can be a little tough, depending on how easy you are able to make impressions, but if it is hurting your hand, make sure to take a break. And this is what I mean by flipping it on its side to do impressions. I think this round took me about 5 to 8 minutes to do, but please take your time so you don't hurt yourself. This is a little time consuming, but you don't have to do this step if you don't like the look of the old beat up style. Make sure you take breaks in between so you don't hurt your hand because the repetitive motion can be exhausting. Splitting up the rings into groups of 4 can make this experience less overwhelming because you are able to accomplish the groups of 4 in no time. Also, if you aren't sure of the size, you can make the impressions of the rings as you go along with building the bracelet to see how much more you need. Okay, so now that we have accomplished the style of the jump rings, I'm going to show you how to build the bracelet. For this, you can use your flat nose pliers and your nylon jaw pliers, but if you don't have nylon jaw pliers, you can also use the round nose pliers to hold the rings in place. You are going to grab one end of the ring to hold it down and push the other end of the ring in the same direction so you are able to get a straight closure so you can start building the chain. So once you do this, you have a solid jump ring and you are now able to start building the bracelet. You can always use your flat nose pliers to squish down the edges together to make them equal with each other. Now I'm taking the second jump ring and opening it so I can join in on the first jump ring we did. Hold the open jump ring with the pliers so you can easily slip on the first jump ring. Then you can take your pliers again to close it up, pushing the opposite side in the same direction just like we did for the first ring. Now doing this, you have a mini chain. Continue doing this process with all the other jump rings until you are at the length needed for your bracelet. I'm leaving this in real time so you guys can see the process of how I'm doing it as well. You can also just add the jump rings without holding onto them with the pliers, but make sure you are using them to close the rings and have them set even. It really makes all the difference with the bracelet, and there is less chance that the bracelet will fall apart on you. But if your wire is easily bent with one motion, be careful when wearing the bracelet as it can get caught on clothing due to the edges. Here I'm taking my round nose pliers to round off the edges because it got misshapen. Now, don't be like me and just use your hands. Make sure you use the pliers because it is easier and safer that way. When you just use your fingers, you can damage your nails and stain your fingers. With the wire, as you guys can see, my fingers are stained because I didn't listen to my own rules. Just like I'm doing here, I'm using the flat nose pliers so the wire stays flush with itself. It reduces the chances of the bracelet breaking. You can also use your round nose pliers to round off the jump rings in case they lost its shape, just like I said before. And the chain is starting to build up fast. Here is a time lapse of me putting the bracelet together. It didn't take long. It's honestly the easiest part of this whole process. Again, please use your pliers. Don't be like me. So now that we have the bracelet almost completed to its desired size, we still have to close it up. See here, the bracelet is a little too big for me, but that's okay because the bracelet isn't for me. The reason for why I am using separate jump rings is because the wire I originally used is much thicker than what can pass through the opening of the eye hook, so we are just using these jump rings as closure for the bracelet. Now I'm getting out the fisheye hook and the jump rings. These jump rings I got from the dollar store, and with the fisheye hooks, you can find them at any craft store or simply just online. I'm just opening up the rings off camera and I will be using two, one on each side of the bracelet. Now that I have them open, we are almost done, picking out the jump rings and setting them aside. Jump rings come in a variety of colors, so feel free to experiment. With these jump rings, we are going to open one and set the fisheye hook within it and then connecting the same part to the bracelet. Using the flat nose pliers just as before with the same method. Hold that down with the pliers and add the fisheye hook. Keeping the jump ring open, attach it to one end of the bracelet. It doesn't matter what end you do. And now once you have that, close the jump ring the exact same way by pulling one side to the other and making it flush with the wire. Now take the second jump ring and continue with the same process but for the other side of the bracelet. Open the jump ring with the pliers pulling in the opposite direction. Hold the jump ring with the pliers and attach the bracelet with the opposite side that we haven't touched yet. Close it all up and now we have a finished bracelet. You are able to close it with the fisheye hook and wear it whenever you want, or simply give it to someone special. If you don't have a fisheye hook, that's okay. You can just close it off with a jump ring and make it a bracelet you can take on and off by sliding it on your wrist. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and found it helpful. And if you guys did decide to follow along, I hope the end project came out wonderful. These bracelets leave no room for error. And this is our final product, everyone. Thank you all for tuning in today. Make sure to subscribe if you don't want to miss an upload, and I'll see you all next time. Bye.